And right now, we are 2 minutes away from the end of the trading day. Romaine Bostick alongside Alix Steel. We're counting you down to the closing bell. Here to help take us beyond the bell. It's a global simulcast. Scarlet Fu in the TV studio. Massar and Tim Stenovec in the radio booth as we welcome all of our audiences across all of our Bloomberg. The what?
The fishbowl.
Is it okay?
Kind of. Because we're all fish, we have no memory.
What does that mean? I should just come by and sprinkle it on
Because
top?
we're on display when you walk by the radio studio. That's why.
Or it's like where the monkeys are. Feed the monkeys. All right, I digress.
I don't know where to go from there.
I'm just happy it's Wednesday.
Okay.
I'm going to talk about the copper space. Copper stocks are up. There's no segue there. Copper stocks are up. The base metal climbing. This on the potential for capacity cuts at Chinese smelters, if you will. So if you look at the Global X Copper Miners ETF, folks, it is up more than 7%. And I'll have some more names when I get to my gainers later on. So yeah.
Another day, another record for Bitcoin.
Yeah.
Fourth time in 6 days it's reached a record. We are seeing a lot of inflows into the ETFs. BlackRock saw a record $849 million in inflows just on Tuesday. Bitcoin up about 70% so far this year.
I'm looking at the re-rating, or what seems to be a re-rating of Tesla. It's the worst performer among the Magnificent Seven. And for that group over the past year, it's the only member to decline. Everyone else has gained, but Tesla's down 3%. Wells Fargo is saying it's a growth stock without growth. It sees zero growth in sales volume this year.
I asked earlier, can it be a growth stock if there is no growth?
That was harsh. The answer from Wells Fargo is no.
Sorry.
That was definitely a harsh note from Wells Fargo, for sure. But clearly, market holding up okay despite the Tesla rolling over the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, interesting market, though. You look at all the names that are moving higher here. You're not going to really find any real tech names out there. I think PayPal is the only one, and that's kind of tech-ish, if you will. The Dow Jones Industrial Average is going to manage to squeak into the green on the day, up about 0.1%, though it had been significantly higher earlier in the session. The S&P 500 closing in the red, down by about 10 points or 0.2%. The NASDAQ down 88 points or 0.5%, while the Russell 2000, which at one point was up as much as 0.7%, giving back some of those gains, but closing out in the green, up 6 points or 0.3%.
All right, staying with the S&P 500 for a moment, folks. 265 names to the downside. Scarlet, 236 losing ground in the Wednesday trade and 2 unchanged.
All right, let's look at the sector performances here. You've got energy, the clear outperformer, up 1.5%. The pie overall is a real mix there, though, because you have technology down more than 1%, and that's Tesla, really, the drag there. Real estate investment trusts off by 0.6%. Healthcare losing a little bit of ground there, but the strength is in those commodity names, energy materials, as well as utilities.
All right, guys, let's get to some of the individual gainers, if I may. Number one, gainer in the S&P 500. I talked about the copper stocks rising in today's session, some of the miners. So Freeport-McMoRan, it is the number one gainer in the S&P 500. A gain just off its highs of the day, but still with a gain of about 7.6%. We mentioned the potential capacity cuts at Chinese smelters, so that gave a lift, if you will, to the overall space. Let's go to what was a top gainer among the NDX, the NASDAQ 100. And we're talking about PDD. This gaining, what is it, about 3.5%. It was up as much as 8% earlier in the session, but finishing the day with a gain of about 3.6%. The company hiring Aaron Webster from SoFi Technologies to help the payments. Oh, forgive me. I'm sorry. I jumped ahead. Yeah, there it is, PDD. That was PayPal. Let me just move ahead. Sorry, lost my place. Where are we? PDD. Yes.
You got this.
No real market moving news, but it was higher in today's session, up about 3.6%. It is the parent company of Temu, the upstart discounter founded in China. We know that it's continuing to make its way in the U.S. market. Rallying for a third straight day, folks. It's up about 13% or so in the past 3 days. It is going to report its earnings on March 20th. And now to the other P company that I was going to report on, and that's PayPal. This one was a top gainer in the NASDAQ 100, so forgive me for kind of messing it up. Up about 4% in today's session. It hired Aaron Webster from SoFi Technologies to help the company fight financial crime and fraud. He's joining as Chief Enterprise Services Officer. That's effective March 18th. And so he's going to help oversee their global financial crime and fraud prevention programs and maintain regulatory and government relations. So that was kind of the only real news, but those were some of the outperformers in today's session.
Okay, I got some underperformers. You heard a little preview from Scarlet earlier about shares of Tesla, down more than 4% on the day today, 4.53% to the downside. This after Wells Fargo came out and said that there will be zero growth in sales volumes this year. Next year, sales volumes are actually going to drop. Remember, many people do consider this a growth company, so surprising to see this call and it affecting the company's stock price. Also affecting the company's stock price is what President Biden may come out and say. He hasn't said it yet, but according to those familiar with the statement, President Biden is expected to soon release a statement of concern about Nippon Steel's proposed takeover of U.S. Steel, ticker X. Bloomberg did report this, citing people familiar with the matter. Shares closed down by close to 13%. We don't know the scope of Biden's statement, how far he'll go. The people who asked not to be named because the information is private told Bloomberg. The White House declined to comment, Nippon Steel declined to comment, and U.S. Steel did not respond to requests for comment. And then I do want to check in on shares of Dollar Tree today. The company having its worst day in years after it came out this morning and said it was going to close 1,000 stores across the country. Shares falling today by more than 14%, Alex.
Man, dollar stores, really rough go. Okay, I'm looking at the bond market here. Sell off across the curve yet again. So you've now seen 10-year yields rise for about 3 straight days. It's sitting like right on its 200-day moving average, guys, and I care because then we're kind of like a stone's throw away from the 100-day moving average. So we're just breaking some resistance here on the upside when it comes to yields, and that could be kind of a motivator. So definitely watching that into retail sales tomorrow. Yeah, could see some big moves in yields, particularly heading into next week as well. I do want to go back to some of the individual movers on the day, and you were just talking about Dollar Tree there, Tim, just a second ago, because I thought it was kind of a tale of two cities. Remember, we got earnings out of Williams-Sonoma. That was one of the best stock performers today, at least on a percentage basis. That closed at a record high. And Dollar Tree, one of the worst performers. But what I thought was interesting about Dollar Tree was apparently they're not really a dollar store anymore.
They're $7
store
store
lamenting
now.
that, but they moved away from that a long time ago. Remember, they had this range of about like $3 to $5. That was kind of the top end range for a lot of prices. And now they're coming out and they're basically saying we need higher income consumers, and as a result, they need to broaden their offering. So now dollar store is $7 store.
It doesn't have the same sort of, it doesn't quite roll off the tongue, $7 Tree, the way Dollar Tree does. But, you know, for years.
Well, 5 and dimes used to be popular too, Tim.
That's true. 21 below, right? Wasn't 21 below, everything was under $21. Motel 6?
But no, 5 below. Was it 21? It was 5 below.
5 below, yeah.
Wow, you definitely live in Park Slope, dude.
What about Motel 6? How's that?
Wow.
That was $6 a night. That's what it was.
Well, the reason that they are apparently expanding in terms of some of the items and they're costing a little bit more, they're no longer just a dollar or just a few dollars, is apparently the consumers that are shopping at Dollar Tree are kind of more upscale. They said that their new customers, they're gaining higher income consumers. Its new customers in 2023 were mostly households earning more than $125,000 a year. So they're kind of looking to broaden out their offerings.
Let's face it, Dollar Tree, these discount retailers really depended on cheap imports from China. And if that's going to drop off and consumers can get their cheap goods from China directly through Temu or Alibaba, they don't necessarily need to go to Dollar Tree. And so what is left perhaps is not made in some of those lower cost countries.
Okay, but you definitely have to then upscale the inventory and the product offerings and just the stores. I mean, have you guys been to some stores? I mean, it is really, really, really tough going for some of these dollar stores, and the people there look absolutely miserable to work there. I'm just saying you need to revamp a lot more than just here's $7 for this.
Yeah.
We've reported
Romaine's
a lot about
not
that.
been on the dollar store.
I don't think anyone disagrees with you, but I think that takes,
But they're saying
vision,
the higher end shopper is
money.
going there, so that's kind of interesting.
Are you going there, Carol?
I've gone in the past for kids' birthday parties.
Well, I was going to say kids' birthday parties, huge.
I do think it also
depends
depends on where you live, because in some communities around the country, these sorts of stores are the only stores that are around now, and they've catered to that to start selling different types of things. So it's not just what you'd get traditionally at a dollar store, but they have food items at some of these too.
Yeah, dollar food or $7 food now. Guys, the other big story of the day, of course, had to do with that TikTok bill in the House of Representatives. I know you've been keeping an eye on that. I don't know if this is going to pass the House, the Senate, but the president's already said if it does, he's going to sign it.
It's amazing what Congress can do when it puts its mind to something.
I'm
kind of
impressed. It's been like a year and counting, though.
They can get stuff done. They can pass bills. Who knew?
I've done some informal polling around parents of teenagers. It seems like they're kind of in favor of this too, some of those who I've spoken to. I know I'm not going to ask you guys how you feel because you're journalists, and I know you don't have feelings on this. But yeah, I've talked to some parents who say, can you get this thing off my kid's phone?
I will say, our Josh Green reporting that it might be tricky once it gets to the Senate, because already senators are tinkering with it in terms of their own version of what should be done. So we'll see whether or not it gets ultimately across the finish line and whether or not a ban ultimately happens. But politics or policy, that's another thing I think we should debate at some point in the future. All right, guys, that's a wrap. Our cross-platform coverage, radio, TV, YouTube, Bloomberg Originals. We call it Beyond the Bell. We'll see you again, same time, same place tomorrow.